Bonjour à tous, je m'appelle David Brown et je suis un gestionnaire en ressources humaines à Santé Canada. J'ai le plaisir d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui pour vous donner un peu plus de renseignements sur l'approche Grandir. Hello everyone, my name is David Brown and I am a manager in human resources here at Health Canada. I'm pleased to engage with you all today to give you a little bit more information on the growth approach. Nous voulions tenir ces séances d'information afin de permettre aux éventuels candidats de bien comprendre les exigences pour que vous puissiez tirer le meilleur parti possible de assouplissement que nous mettons en place. We wanted to have these info sessions to provide potential candidates with a clear understanding of what is required so that you can all leverage the flexibilities we are piloting. I'll be going back and forth in French and English just for this first part, but then I'll break it up. Comme nous efforcerons d'être aussi cohérentes que possible dans les séances d'information, je lirai directement mes notes, alors veuillez m'excuser si je n'établis pas toujours de contact visuel avec vous. So as we'll be endeavoring to be as consistent as possible in the information sessions, I'll be reading directly from my notes, so please excuse me if I don't always maintain eye contact. Veuillez noter que nous allons enregistrer la séance d'aujourd'hui pour ceux qui ne peuvent se joindre à nous et nous l'afficherons sur la page GC Connect de notre groupe. Please note we'll be recording today's session for the benefit of those who are not able to join us and posting it on our GC Connect page. Si au fil du déroulement du projet pilote, nous constatons que notre séance d'information s'impose, nous en organiserons une en conséquence. Nous vous demandons dans ce cas d'en informer vos collègues et vos contacts et de les encourager d'y prendre part, puis de communiquer avec nous au besoin. Puisque vous avez tout démontré votre intérêt envers l'approche Grandir, nous aimerions faire de vous nos ambassadeurs, si vous le pouvez et le souhaitez. As we proceed with the pilot, if we see that another info session is warranted, we'll schedule one accordingly, so please inform and engage your colleagues and contacts and get back to us as needed. Since you have all demonstrated your interest in the growth approach, we would like to leverage you all as our ambassadors now, if you are able and willing. Avant de commencer, j'aimerais vous raconter une courte histoire qui m'a inspiré à concevoir l'approche Grandir. Illustre les défis auxquels nous sommes confrontés en matière de dotation et de gestion des talents dans la fonction publique. So before we start, I would like to tell you all a short story that was the inspiration for me to develop the growth approach. It illustrates the challenges we face with regards to staffing and talent management in the public service. So when I joined Health Canada to take on the role of manager of HR planning and performance measurement, I had an employee that was wonderful. She was a great communicator and team player. She had a strong understanding of HR planning and was very client service oriented. She was fully bilingual, a visible minority, and had a master's degree. Everything that I asked of her was done quickly and with a high degree of quality. Even if I only provided her with a broad, high-level idea of a task, she would be able to understand what was needed in the specific context and provide exactly what was required. All in all, she was a model employee. Like many individuals, despite her high level of education and background, she had joined the public service in the AS category. Before I joined the team, she had already been in her AS role for quite some time, and because of her high level of competencies, she was often relied on to do more than what the role required. I quickly saw that she was a great employee to invest in from a talent management and succession planning standpoint, so I offered her a PE3 opportunity. As luck would have it, a little later, we had a PE3 vacancy, and I decided to fill the vacancy using an advertised process. Because she was doing well in her acting role, and we had no other employees in a similar situation, from a client consistency standpoint, I chose to extend her acting until the process was complete. I was a new manager at the time, and this was one of my first advertised processes that I was leading, so I wanted to do it right. My staffing advisor was great, as I needed a lot of coaching, but she walked me through each of the steps and guided me along the way. With our busy workload, it took me a number of months to finalize the criteria and get the necessary approvals to launch, and then more time after the process closed to complete the screening. By this time, my employee had been acting in the PE3 role I was endeavoring to staff for almost a year and performing excellently. One of the criteria I had identified was experience in research and analysis in HR planning, or something like this. My employee had given numerous detailed examples of the analysis she had undertaken in HR planning, which would have necessitated that she had previously done research, but she did not specifically outline the research action she had done in her application. Even though I had personally witnessed and benefited for almost a year her great research and analysis experience in HR planning, because she did not specifically highlight her experience in research in her application, she was screened out of the process. When I had my informal discussion with her, it was a heartbreaking experience because both she and I knew she had this experience and was demonstrating this on a daily basis. But simply because she did not write the right words in her application, we were forced to screen her out. While she would have been hands down the best fit for the position, I was forced to give the opportunity to another candidate who was great but was not quite as good. She was forced to return to her AS position, which must have been demoralizing for her after she had done such a good job in the PE3 role for so long. And to be fair, I was not able to continue to give her the same PE3 level work, which I know she would have been great at. As such, this small oversight in her application created an awful situation for the employee, our team, and ultimately, we were worse off in providing excellent client service from a business standpoint. As a manager, I was open and willing to take a better fit, higher qualified candidate from the process. But what was frustrating to me was I felt the results of the process, while acceptable, forced me to take a less ideal decision than I would have and did not maximize the talent and team I had been investing in from a talent management standpoint for almost a year. I thought there must be a better way to do advertised staffing processes to avoid minor process deficiencies that have life-changing and long-term impacts to the detriment of employees, teams, and organizations. This is what sparked my idea for the growth approach. Maintenant, on peut commencer le... Oui? Première diapositive. OK. Avant d'entrer dans le vif du sujet, voici ce que je crois être les renseignements les plus utiles à vous transmettre lors de cette séance d'information. Je vais d'abord vous parler du contexte dans lequel s'insère cette nouvelle approche et vous expliquer sa raison d'être. Ensuite, je vais vous expliquer ce qu'est l'approche Grandir et en quoi elle diffère d'un processus de dotation annoncé typique. Enfin, je vais vous donner une idée du déroulement prévu de ce processus et de répondre à toutes vos questions. S'il y a autre chose que vous espérez tirer de cette séance d'information, veuillez me le faire savoir à la fin de la présentation et je m'efforcerai de répondre à vos besoins. Comme il s'agit d'un projet pilote, nous en sommes encore à régler certains détails afin d'améliorer les choses et de les faire évoluer au fil de la mise en œuvre, mais je devrais pouvoir vous donner un bon aperçu de ce que nous visons. Passons maintenant au contexte. Je n'entrerai pas dans les détails de cette diapositive si n'est pour vous dire que cette aventure a commencé il y a plus de 3 ans et demi. Depuis que j'ai eu cette idée, j'ai peaufiné le concept auprès d'un certain nombre d'employés et de gestionnaires à l'aide d'une approche axée sur leur réflexion conceptuelle. Puis, j'ai collaboré avec d'autres collègues et chefs de la file de ressources humaines provenant des diverses disciplines pour en arriver finalement à la version que nous mettons à l'essai actuellement. Chaque fois que mes collègues et moi-même avons fait une présentation au comité de la haute gestion des ressources humaines de Santé Canada, l'initiative a été appuyée et autorisée à passer à l'étape suivante. Ma propre capacité et l'absence des ressources dédiées à l'approche ont donc été le principal défi à surmonter. On n'admet pas souvent le fait que de concevoir, de faire accepter et de mettre en place un projet innovant n'est pas aussi facile ou direct que de mener un projet, une initiative entrant dans les normes. Il faut environ 2 fois plus de travail et d'efforts, voire davantage, à ce type de projet, et lorsqu'on ajoute le fait de ne pouvoir y travailler que sporadiquement, il faut beaucoup plus d'endurance et de détermination pour avancer. C'est pourquoi je crois que la fonction publique a encore beaucoup de chemin à faire pour consolider son appui à l'innovation, car même lorsque la haute direction soutient les idées novatrices, celles-ci risquent de ne plus être si novatrices s'il faut 3 ans et demi pour les mettre à l'essai. Si je vous dis cela, c'est pour vous demander de faire preuve de patience tout au long du projet pilote. Bien que nous travaillons à ce projet depuis longtemps, sa concrétisation est un tout autre défi. Et nous devons réagir et nous adapter à mesure que nous avançons. De plus amples détails sur le déroulement de cette démarche d'innovation à ce jour se trouvent dans les notes que j'afficherai après les séances d'information. Now, if you please turn to slide 4, I will outline the rationale behind the approach. I believe most managers and organizations believe the purpose of a staffing process is to hire the right candidate for their position. Because of this, our current advertised processes are focused on narrowing down the qualified candidates to those final few that management can be sure will meet their needs as quickly and efficiently as possible. While this may seem like a good idea at first glance, this narrow approach does not take into consideration the broader needs of other managers in the organization and the growth, development, health, and well-being of employees. Management wants to fill their business need as fast and as efficiently as possible. As such, they typically create specific criteria for their staffing processes to better ensure whoever applies has the exact requirements they need. This is good for the manager running the process, but it does not support other managers who may have needs at the same group and level. They then go through a rigorous process of screening so that only the best of the best pass through, and fewer candidates means less wasted energy and time on assessment to find the right fit candidate. Good employees may be screened out if they do not write the right words in their applications or say the right things in an interview. Finally, managers may choose a candidate that was very successful in applying and presenting themselves to be the ideal one for the job, or to be throughout the process, but this candidate may not, in fact, be the ideal one for the job and team dynamic. As you will see on the next slide, this approach to advertised staffing has a number of negative impacts on stakeholders involved. The growth approach is proposing a fundamental shift in our emphasis in staffing. The approach suggests staffing processes should have as their primary goal the determination of whether or not candidates have the qualifications or not for a role. Then after this, it is management's job to determine who their ideal fit candidate should be. This minor shift in emphasis has profound implications for a process. Rather than focusing on weeding out as many candidates as possible, only to qualify the best of the best, the growth approach proposes a robust assessment of all candidates on each criteria, so management can be sure whoever they select will have the necessary experience, education, knowledge, and competencies necessary for the job. This shift in focus would not be sustainable if this was the only change the growth approach is proposing. So now let me walk you through the current state and proposed future state so that you can see how we can propose having a more robust assessment while at the same time reducing the time and effort we spend on the process. Sur le dispositif état actuel, nous voyons que les gestionnaires, avec l'aide des ressources humaines, amorcent un certain nombre de processus tout au long de l'année pour répondre à leurs besoins particuliers en dotation. Nous constatons toutefois que les processus ont tous des critères communs, ce qui indique qu'ils visent probablement les mêmes groupes et niveaux, mais ils doivent doter des divers postes plus spécialisés avec des critères plus spécifiques. Selon leur expérience et leurs antécédents, les employés posent leur candidature dans le cadre de plusieurs processus tout au long de l'année, dans l'espoir de se qualifier et d'obtenir l'un d'entre eux, même si ce n'est pas leur emploi. Les processus mènent à l'obtention de petits bassins de candidats spécialisés qui peuvent s'épuiser rapidement, ce qui oblige la direction à reprendre les processus de zéro en cas de poste vacant, créant ainsi une suite de processus qui s'avère être un exercice long et fastidieux. Now, if we turn to the future state slide, we'll see how the growth approach proposes an alternate process. Management first identifies what are the core experience, knowledge, and competencies for a specific group and level. Those essential criteria that would facilitate a person at a certain group and level to hypothetically deploy to any other position in that group and level, not the more technical or subject matter area specific criteria. We then run a process assessing this core or generic essential criteria. The way we run the process, however, is different. Rather than only looking at what candidates submit in their applications or what they say in an interview, we also consider other relevant information that may help us supplement the assessment and determine if candidates have the necessary qualifications. A number of examples of this are board knowledge, results of other staffing processes, where the same or similar criteria were assessed, acting experience at the group and level in question with satisfactory performance, results of performance assessment, talent management plans or talent mapping, client, manager, or colleague attestations, indicating the candidate has demonstrated the essential criteria in question, and or standardized tests. Those who are assessed as having all of the core essential criteria will become part of a fully qualified pool. For generalist positions, employees could be appointed directly from the fully qualified pool. For positions where more specific criteria is required, managers will pull a subset of candidates from the fully qualified pool that had indicated they had the requisite criteria, assess this subset of candidates for the criteria in question, and staff with the ideal fit candidate. Those who are assessed as not having all of the core essential criteria will become part of a partially qualified pool. They will have talent conversations with their managers to determine the actions or steps to take to acquire or demonstrate the outstanding essential criteria and then implement these actions. It's important to note that for this pilot, we will only be in a position to support managers and employees within our own directorate, HRSD, with this talent management piece. We will, however, share any tools we might develop or leverage to facilitate this happening in other organizations across the public service. After a certain duration, depending on business needs, the processes will be refreshed. This will give candidates the opportunity to be reassessed on those essential criteria where they had gaps previously. They would not need to be reassessed on those criteria where they were already assessed as meeting the criteria. This would help them become part of the fully qualified pool to be potentially considered for indeterminate opportunities at the group and level in question. The work does not stop there, however, as candidates will continually need to improve and better themselves to show they are the next ideal fit candidate for opportunities that may arise. New highly qualified candidates will be entering into the pools on a regular basis, and we will always advise managers to choose their ideal fit candidate for new vacancies no matter how long anyone has been in the pool. This approach will provide management with continuously replenished pools of highly qualified talent ready to meet their needs at a moment's notice. Through the flexible, open, and robust assessment approach, management will have the confidence that candidates have the core essential criteria to meet their needs. It will reduce the burden on HR to support numerous one-off staffing processes, and finally, it will support the development and talent management of employees, thus helping us retain and attract great talent. Now let me outline the steps candidates should take to participate in this process. If you're thinking of applying, you should determine how you would like to demonstrate how you meet the essential education and experience criteria. You could do it by simply providing detailed examples of how you meet the essential criteria, or by providing specific reference to supporting documentation that you will be submitting, or by some combination of these two. The decision is entirely up to you. Our goal in this is to get as robust a picture as possible on if you meet the essential criteria or not. At the same time, we do not want this to become unnecessarily burdensome on you. We're going very broad for this initial launch and leaving it quite flexible to see what we receive. We will then determine from our experience and yours if any adjustments might be warranted for the next time we refresh the pools. Please note, as indicated on the poster, definitions and examples of behaviors relating to organizing and strategic can be found on the Growth Approach GC Connects group. Through this, we are endeavoring to be as open and transparent with the kinds of behaviors and experience candidates need to demonstrate, so candidates clearly know what the assessment board is looking for. Also, please note, for more specific criteria that may be assessed at a later date, depending on the needs of the hiring manager, the only thing you should be submitting at the application stage are the number of years of experience for each criteria. No detailed explanations of all your experience. You already have enough to handle with demonstrating how you meet the essential experience criteria, so through this, we're endeavoring to reduce the burden somewhat on candidates at the application stage. Candidates will be screened out or in based on the essential education and experience criteria. The rationale behind this is we are thinking it might be too difficult to manage if the majority of candidates were added to the partially qualified pools, even if they only met one experience competency. This, however, is one of the areas we hope to learn about from the experience of the pilot to see if any adjustments might be warranted. This also does not prevent screened out candidates from having talent conversations with their managers to determine and take steps to obtain the experience they may be missing for the next time the processes are refreshed. Even though screened out candidates will not be part of the partially qualified pool, my plan is if and when screened out candidates reapply, they can bring forward their previous results and then they only need to focus on demonstrating where they did not meet previously. Once screening is complete, our current plan is screened-in candidates will be sent a competency template and given approximately 2 weeks to complete it. Please note this is still subject to approval. While the template is still being finalized, and the basic idea is this will allow candidates the opportunity to identify how they feel they meet the essential competency criteria and associated behaviors, and submit this back to the Growth Approach email account, along with any additional supporting documentation they may wish to be considered. Board members will have some time to review the submissions and consider any past or new documentation and discuss as needed. This will prepare them for the interview and help them determine where they might like to focus their questions to obtain further clarification, nuance, or more information. Screening candidates will be invited to an interview and be offered the opportunity to speak to how they feel they meet the competencies. This will allow them the opportunity to provide further nuance or information from what they had submitted previously. Board members will then ask any follow-up questions based on their previous review, as well as what was provided in the interview. They will also have an opportunity to ask other additional, broader questions to get a broader understanding of the candidate. Further details on this interview stage will be provided in the frequently asked questions document once it is finalized and approved. After the interview, board members will consult and determine if they would like to ask the candidate to provide a sample of their work, as well as someone to corroborate their contribution to the product. References will also be requested, but we're still determining who, how many, and what they will be asked. All of this will help inform the board's assessment of each of the candidates' competencies based on all of the information at their disposal. Candidates will then be notified that they are either placed in the fully or partially qualified pool and encouraged to have talent conversations with their manager accordingly. Candidates will have the opportunity to have an informal discussion with one or more of the board members to discuss the process and assessment. Managers can then leverage the pools and, as indicated previously, assessing the other more specific criteria they may have as either essential or asset criteria to meet their needs. Candidates in the fully qualified pool will work with their managers to improve in the areas where they have gaps in preparation for when the processes will be refreshed. Surveys will be utilized at various points to obtain feedback from board members, hiring managers, candidates, and HR advisors on the effectiveness and efficiency of the process to evaluate the results of the pilot. These results will then be shared with senior management and participants in the process, and adjustments will be made to the pilot as warranted. While I'm sure there will be bumps along the way, we have done our best to mitigate the major risks we anticipate facing. As with anything innovative, this will give us an opportunity to try out something new that could help us create something better than what we have now. And I look forward to hearing any feedback you may have and answering any questions. J'ai maintenant hâte d'entendre vos commentaires et de répondre à vos questions. Merci beaucoup. So, yes. You can stop sharing, and we'll see if we have any questions online. So you can submit your questions through the chat function, and or in the room.
From George here.
Did you take it off of mute?
I think, George, can you speak right now? Okay, let me see. I'm just going to unmute everyone, so you will be...
Testing 1, 2.
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
So, George, I think you mentioned 2 questions on the chat room. Would you be willing to just repeat them live, please?
Or was that from the previous session?
So, let's read them.
Sure.
So, the first one was here. What sort of detail is needed in these attestations? Oh, George, he says, I would, but they are vacuuming my office.
Okay.
All right, then. So, just an acknowledgement that the candidate and employee meets the criteria, or is the manager expected to provide detailed examples?
I think this will be considered along with anything else that you submit. Of course, I think detailed examples would be more helpful than just saying that you meet the criteria, but it's one source of information, and that will be taken into account with all of the other sources of information that are provided. If that's the only source of information that's saying that you meet a competency, I don't think it will give enough information for the board to really make that determination. So yes, I would suggest leveraging other ones, or ask the manager to provide a little bit more information.
David, if I may, to Marc-Claude, I would just like to add that the candidates at the application stage, they only need to submit whatever is supporting documents or examples of situations on how they meet the essential experience criteria. So about the competencies, please don't worry about that before the close of the poster. We will get back to candidates afterward and give them a deadline to submit anything regarding the assessment of the competency. So by the close of the poster, candidates make sure that they need to submit everything to support their candidacy out, to demonstrate how they meet the essential experience and the education only. I'll translate, OK? Alors, en ce qui concerne la date d'échéance, la date de fin de l'annonce, la date de clôture, je veux juste mentionner aux candidats que ce qui est important, c'est vraiment de soumettre la documentation pour supporter votre candidature, pour démontrer que vous rencontrez les expériences essentielles et les études. Donc, stressez-vous pas à tout mettre ensemble pour démontrer comment vous rencontrez les compétences pour la date de fin de l'annonce. On va vous revenir et les candidats qui vont être présélectionnés, on va vous donner un échéancier pour nous soumettre la documentation ou comment vous rencontrez les compétences à une date ultérieure. Merci. Thank you, David.
So I'm just because there's one other question here, and then I'll turn to the room, and then I'll turn to online. So if you think of questions, if you have any in the room and online as we go. So there was another question. Is there an overall project plan for this process with timelines for when the assessment will be complete and the pools, full or partially created? If so, what are those timelines? I would say we don't. We have a general idea. I would say we don't have a specific timelines or deadlines for every single piece of the process, particularly because this is a pilot and also because we're all working on this on the side of our desks. So it's not something that is able for us to really have that precise timelines. But I will say that management is definitely interested in utilizing and leveraging this pool ASAP. So I know we are going to be proceeding quite quickly with this as fast as we can to finalize the assessment and establish the partially and fully qualified pools. So in the room, do we have any comments or questions in the room?
You got another one here, though.
We'll just see.
So just to clarify, with the application, because I think before it was mentioned just specifying the number of years, but now there's been clarification that you should actually explain. Okay,
so on the essential experience criteria, you need to give the detailed information on and or documentation on what you're submitting and how you meet that. So that one you'll need to. It's only on what we would typically see as asset criteria that you only have to put the number of years. So that's in the text part. If you go into the actual area, it's the part that's under text. There you just need to give the years, but the part that's screening question, that's where you have to provide the detailed information, either through explanation of how you meet the criteria or through submission of stuff in your document. We have another question here. If the hiring manager decides to pull from the fully qualified generic pool, but adds a criteria, would this still be considered an advertised appointment? Yes, it would be, because he's considered as fully qualified in the pool that was advertised and promoted, and the criteria that they're using has been identified on the poster. You'll see on the poster it talks about depth and breadth and complexity can be added to any of the criteria that that are identified on the poster. So that's how the hiring manager can nuance their specific needs. So for example, a person in staffing policy, they might say, I need a recent and extensive experience in staffing for have an understanding. So at least 3 years of experience in staffing. So they'll pull the people who have identified staffing experience from the fully qualified pool, assess that criterion. Okay, does it meet that determination of extensive, and then choose their right fit candidate from that subset of
and manager might need to meet with candidates and ask more questions, and that's why we're only asking for a number of years, because each manager for each specific discipline will have the opportunity to discuss and continue the assessment of the candidates.
And they will have the freedom to do it in any way that they want. So some might say, oh, I want a reference. Some might say, oh, I want an essay. Some might say, oh, I want to meet with you. Some might say, I'm going to pick this one just from what I saw in what was previously submitted. So they will be able to choose how they want to, what they feel will meet their needs. The robust assessment will happen on the foundation, on that generic criteria, and the managers will determine how extensive they want to go in assessing their specific needs.
David, may I translate?
Yes.
OK. Alors, la question, c'était plus au niveau des atouts. On demande aux candidats de seulement indiquer s'ils ont l'atout, oui ou non, et d'indiquer le nombre d'années. Et c'est tout. On ne demande pas d'expérience, on ne demande pas de description de l'expérience à ce moment-ci, parce qu'on va revenir au niveau de l'évaluation des atouts quand on aura un besoin dans une discipline spécifique. Le gestionnaire de la discipline aura l'opportunité de poursuivre l'évaluation des gens qui rencontrent l'atout. Comme David disait, les gestionnaires auront l'opportunité d'évaluer de la manière qu'ils souhaitent. Donc, il y en a qui pourraient faire une entrevue, juste une discussion avec un candidat ou évaluer tous les candidats. Ils pourraient demander quelque chose par écrit ou ils pourraient décider de nommer quelqu'un juste selon ce qu'ils ont vu dans le CV ou dans la candidature qui a été soumise. Donc, juste pas trop passer de temps, pas besoin de nous soumettre l'information sur vos expériences en particulier parce qu'on va vous revenir à ce sujet-là. Pour l'instant, on se concentre seulement sur les qualifications essentielles, donc les études et les expériences essentielles. C'est pour David.
Is there any other questions in the room? Is that a different one?
I think if you heard what you just said, I'm going to look if there is any new one.
Okay. Can anyone on the line have any questions that they would like to ask?
Hi, my name is Noella, and I'm at IRCC. I do have some questions in terms of how the assets would be recorded. I think you guys mentioned how, for example, that if you were looking for someone who had experience in staffing and you were looking at recent, let's say, or within 3 months, and you're saying that you'd go back and look at all this information. So how would that be recorded? Would you have to go back and look at everyone that said yes to the asset and then look to see who has the recent experience, or would it already be in a database, recorded somehow? Or do you always just have to keep going back to everyone that said yes for a certain asset and look at all their applications? I guess to look for that information. Does that make sense?
Yes. So we will have some information. We will have how long the person has had that experience, and if they had that experience. What we don't know is when they had that experience. So if a manager says, I need recent experience, then yes, he would need to go back to everyone to determine, has it been recent or not, the experience that has been had. So, but it would be that subset of applicants that indicated that they had that experience. Of course, if his experience, he says he needs 3 years of a certain experience in a certain domain, and there's a candidate that only says they have 2 years of experience, then he doesn't need to go and ask that candidate whether or not they have that experience, because they only indicated 2 years. However, where that's maybe right after the process. If there's been 2 or 3, like if he's hiring someone 2 or 3 years down the road, and at that, like previously when the person applied, they said that they had 2 years of experience, they might have 4 years by now, you know, by the time that the hiring manager. So at that point, we would recommend that the hiring manager look at those people, if he required 3 years, to look at those people that might have had, that could potentially have that experience now when they actually hire. So they would be pulling from the partially qualified pool. But that's, yes, we won't have all of that information right at the start. As we go through the pilot project, we say, oh, this is something that we should capture as well. Like right now, we're only capturing the number of years of experience. Managers might say, oh, I want to know what date to what date. So we might, when we do a refresh of this next time, we might ask for that so we can capture that as well. It depends what we feel. We don't want to be more burdensome, but we want to make this as useful as possible. So.
And one thing for sure is that we will record everything, that we will go back to the candidates to get more information. So every time we will go to candidates and ask for more specific details, because one manager is assessing them, we'll keep records of all this information for next manager. So if a manager or a director in classification needs something and we go to people with classification experience, well, for sure, next time someone wants to appoint someone in classification, we'll make sure that this information we retrieved will be made available to them. So as we go along, we'll get more and more information from candidates, and managers will be better equipped to make their choices. Peut-être que j'aimerais traduire. Donc, attends un peu. Je ne me rappelle plus comment ça a commencé. Do you remember how it started?
If we're going to be capturing a whole database of information on.
OK, c'est ça. Donc, il y a quelqu'un qui demandait comment est-ce qu'on va récupérer l'information, comment est-ce qu'on va documenter les dossiers des candidats en ce qui concerne les atouts, si à chaque fois qu'un gestionnaire a l'intention de considérer des candidats, est-ce que le gestionnaire va devoir retourner à tous les candidats qui ont dit oui à la question, à savoir est-ce qu'ils rencontraient cet atout-là? Bien, c'est sûr qu'au début, oui, il va falloir aller au candidat pour récupérer l'information qui est requise par le gestionnaire. Mais par exemple, si le gestionnaire nous dit déjà qu'il a besoin de quelqu'un qui a au moins 3 ans d'expérience, bien, on va aller voir d'après les réponses obtenues, puis on va demander l'information plus détaillée à ceux qui rencontrent le besoin du candidat. Mais ce qui est important, c'est que vous sachiez que toute l'information qu'on va récupérer au fur et à mesure que l'évaluation va avancer dans les différentes disciplines, c'est qu'on va enregistrer cette information-là dans le dossier du candidat, puis ça va être rendu disponible pour les futurs gestionnaires qui voudraient considérer ces candidats-là. Comme je donnais l'exemple, si un gestionnaire ou un directeur en classification peut faire une nomination, bien, il va aller voir les gens qui ont dit qu'ils avaient de l'expérience en classification, va récupérer l'information désirée, mais la prochaine fois qu'un gestionnaire veut faire une nomination en classification, bien, l'information qui a été récupérée va être disponible pour ce gestionnaire-là. Donc, c'est possible qu'il n'ait pas besoin, lui, de communiquer avec les candidats pour obtenir plus d'informations. As-tu d'autres questions? To you, David.
Okay. Any other questions in the room or online?
I guess in terms of volume control, because we're a little concerned about how, and it's a large.
Or we can't hear you. Can you repeat your question?
Sorry, the question is kind of a follow-up question in terms of volume control.
Yes.
Like, how would you go about controlling the amount of candidates that you're going to have into the process. Like, what if 1,000 candidates apply and then...
Well, we're not there yet. And I think that's why we call it a pilot, right, David?
Yes, for sure. Well, there's a few measures that we've put in place and are putting in place to manage the volume. So one, you will see, that only candidates that are, for the PE4 process, only candidates that are at the PE3 group and level or equivalent can apply, as well as for the PE5 process, only PE4 candidates or equivalent can apply. So that's one way in which we're managing. The other way in which we're managing is, first, internally, it's a sliding area selection. So we won't be we won't be screening all of the candidates that apply initially. If we have specific groups, that we'll be screening those internal on the first, within HRSD first. And if we notice that there are gaps based on our initial screening in certain areas, disciplines, then we will expand our screening to those candidates in those that have identified experience in those disciplines. So if, for example, classification, we don't have as many candidates applying in classification, then we will expand it out to classification. I will note that this is one of the areas that we already know. We have more needs than we have internally. So if you know of colleagues in classification across the public service that are interested in participating in an interesting approach, please encourage them to, or bring this to their attention. So that's another area. The other way in which we're going to be managing this is through the renewal of the pools, of the processes. So initially, when I was first thinking about this, it would happen every 6 months. How it's changed, evolved at this point is we're saying it's as needed based on the management needs. So it might be 6 months, it might be 9 months. As we go through the process and we see how many people we have in the pool, we don't want to, if we have 50 people in the pool that we're not utilizing, we can't leverage right away, do we need to go out and do another, renew the process immediately? No. So it'll really be dependent on needs. Of course, we'll need to balance that because certain disciplines might be fully depleted, and other disciplines might have still lots of people. So we'll have to manage that at that time. But this is the other area in which we're trying to manage the volume of this moving forward. Of course, this is a pilot internal we're piloting this internal for Health Canada. Ultimately, we hope to gain and learn from this experience to potentially expand this to other groups and levels. We think it's a great way to help potentially, show that we are trying to develop our workforce and invest in our workforce. We think it's a great way to hopefully attract other great individuals into our workforce that we can maintain. We're showing that we're not only, so once if you happen to get, come in at the PE4 level, you can see that we have a process in place to help people develop the competencies for that next level. So not just potentially other groups and levels, but even potentially other levels throughout. So maybe we go to the PE6 level, we'll see how it goes. Ultimately, we'll see what happens. Our hope is to, work with other organizations. We've had been reached out by other organizations that are interested in learning more about the growth approach. And so if you are in HR and a different organization and are interested in trying to see how this could be leveraged in your own organization, we're definitely wanting to collaborate with you to see how we can expand this further. Ultimately, from a public service standpoint, working with the Public Service Commission, maybe that might be opportunities there to help us better manage our workforce and do staffing in the public service. So yes, we'll see where this, starting out small, but that's how we're trying to manage the volume at this point.
I have a question. So you said that after a certain period of time, you'll see if there's a need to refresh the pools. So what will happen with the people who are in it? Will they need to reapply?
No. Once you're in the fully qualified pool, you don't need to reapply. If you're in the partially qualified pool and you want to become part of the fully qualified pool, then you will need to indicate that you want to be assessed on those areas where you had gaps previously. So that'll be open at that point for those who are in the partially qualified pool. But if you're already in the fully qualified pool, you don't need to reapply. You'll continue to be in that pool, and as there are gaps within the organization, managers will staff accordingly from the fully qualified pool. Does that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
I've got a couple of questions. Hello?
Yes. Yeah.
One is I noted just today that the poster for the PE4 process was extended. The closing date was moved a couple of days later.
Yes.
My experience in staffing is normally that happens when there are not very many applicants.
Yes.
Would that be a reasonable conclusion here?
No, it was more because we had feedback from candidates that saying because we are just doing the information sessions now, and some candidates, to pull together the portfolio of what they want to submit. Some people are reaching out, to previous managers, and they want to give their managers some time to provide attestation letters, these kinds of things. So it was more to give candidates a little bit more time to pull together what they want to submit to show how they can meet the selection criteria. So
that's helpful.
And we also just to mention we launched a little bit later than we anticipated, so it was also to factor that in. We launched right before a long weekend, and so it wasn't the most ideal time to launch, but we did what we could. But we only extended it a few days because management is wanting to staff as soon as possible from these pools. So that's the reason why it's only a few days.
A couple other questions that come to mind is, will there be some sharing with the candidates at some point about sort of getting a sense of how many other candidates there are and how many people are put into the pools or fully or partially qualified? From a candidate's perspective, you're often in the dark. You don't know if you're one applicant among 5 other people or one applicant among 5,000 other people. You have no way of knowing. And then related to that is, what's the target for the number of positions that are aiming to be filled through this process? Are we looking at 5 or 10 positions, 50 positions? Like, what's the number of vacancies that are planned to be staffed out of this?
Right. Right now, we don't have a clear exact number of how many vacancies. It's more anticipatory. So depending on because we haven't, in every division, there might be vacancies in different areas in HR, and it all depends also on attrition. So if there's people that happen to leave the organization, then we'll need to backfill. So the exact number of positions is not determined. I would say our hope, and this is part of the pilot, is to say, okay, are we able to meet our needs at the PE4 and PE5 level with the growth approach? Do managers feel they need to do non-advertised processes? Do they feel they need to still do their own specific processes to staff at these levels? That is all part of the pilot to determine, how much it is leveraged. So we hope we've created a good balance, and we'll learn from the experience. With regards to sharing information on number of candidates, I don't see any problem with sharing how many candidates eventually be part of the pools. Right now, I can tell you, I think we said number of applications in progress are around 131 for the PE4 process and about 85 for the PE5 process. But that was a few days ago. And we know that usually it's towards the end of the process that employees usually start to really get down and apply. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But right now it's looking like there's quite a bit of interest and you know, of course my hope is it makes more work for us, but my hope is that we get a lot more interest. So if you know of people that are interested, please encourage them to apply. Ultimately, you know, I see this as an opportunity to potentially transform the public service and how we do staffing in the public service. It was very strategic what I was trying to do. We started starting with the PE group. These are the people that are actually doing the staffing or often doing the staffing, et cetera, in every single organization. So you all know about, you'll all be able to experience it yourself and see if it's valuable or not and potential, and who knows, maybe innovate even more and say, oh, this is a much better way to do it, and so that we can, you know, staffing has always been one of those pain points, I think, across the public service. So hopefully this is one way in which we can make incremental improvements to that.
Excuse me, George and David, if you would allow me, I would like to translate the two questions George asked.
Sure.
Merci. Alors, George, il demandait, il mentionnait qu'habituellement, qu'il avait remarqué aujourd'hui que la date de fin pour l'annonce du processus PE4 avait été reportée de quelques jours. Puis, en passant, c'est la même chose pour le PE5. Puis, il disait que d'habitude, quand on voit ça, c'est parce que le nombre de candidats qui ont appliqué n'est pas suffisant. Fait qu'il demandait si c'était normal, si on devait considérer que c'était aussi la situation dans ce cas-ci. Non, c'est pas le cas du tout. Si on a décidé de prolonger, il y a plusieurs raisons qui fait qu'on a décidé de prolonger de quelques jours la date de clôture. C'est que, premièrement, on a annoncé à la veille d'un long week-end, qui était peut-être pas une bonne idée. Il y avait peut-être plusieurs personnes qui étaient en congé. Mais aussi, il y a plusieurs candidats qui ont communiqué avec nous pour dire, étant donné que les sessions d'information ont été, certaines ont été retardées, ont lieu seulement aujourd'hui, et les candidats apprécieraient avoir plus de temps pour ceux qui veulent fournir de la documentation, organiser ce qu'on appelle un portfolio pour soumettre avec leur candidature, donner plus de temps à leur gestionnaire s'ils veulent avoir une lettre de leur gestionnaire et tout ça. Donc, on trouvait que c'était des bonnes raisons, mais on a quand même pas prolongé trop longtemps parce que la gestion attend impatiemment de commencer l'évaluation de ces candidats-là. On a des besoins. George a demandé aussi si on avait une idée de combien de postes qui devraient être comblés, combien qu'on a de postes vacants à combler avec ce processus-là. On n'a pas vraiment encore un nombre précis, mais on s'attend vraiment à ce que tous les postes de PE 4 et 5 au sein de la Direction générale des services en ressources humaines à Santé Canada et l'Agence de santé publique soient comblés à partir de ces bassins-là. Donc, on s'attend, il y a quand même un roulement, vous savez comment est-ce que c'est en ressources humaines, donc on s'attend à ce qu'il y ait plusieurs. Je sais qu'il y en a déjà en dotation puis en classification des postes à doter. Pour ce qui est des autres, on verra au fur et à mesure. Aussi, George demandait si c'était possible si on avait l'intention de partager avec les candidats combien de candidats sont qualifiés dans le bassin pleinement qualifié et dans le bassin partiellement qualifié. Comme David disait, il n'y a aucun problème avec la transparence. On est très à l'aise avec ça. Fait on pourrait très bien vous partager l'information quand on sera rendu là. Pour l'instant, ce que David disait, c'est que pour le PE4, on a reçu, je crois qu'on avait 131 candidatures qui étaient en traitement, comment est-ce qu'on appelle ça, en tout cas, en train de se compléter dans le système. Puis, je pense qu'on avait 85 pour le PE5. Donc, ça, c'était là, un jour ou deux qu'on a eu ces données-là. Donc, ça va quand même très bien. On est très satisfait du nombre, sachant très bien que souvent les gens attendent plus à la dernière minute parce que ça leur prend du temps à préparer leur candidature. Donc, j'espère que j'ai tout couvert. To you, David.
Claude?
David, I just want to ask you a question about if you've thought about, okay, if there's any kind of employment obstacles, let's say WFA and cuts and whatever is gelled, and I mean, it's sure like staffing and classification, but we're going to have at some point in time, hopefully, a wake-up call that this is not just staffing and classification if we want to be an HR advisor, but all of that to say, like, if there is too many participants that left on an existing pool, so then is there any planification about, okay, what we're doing? Essentially, my question could be way simple. This is just like, should we encourage all of the P3 and P4 to submit their candidature just in case of we will not reopen these pools regarding of the management needs, because at some point in time for economics, for different type of issues, maybe there will not be as much chances as we should have in the next few months or so. So did you think about it?
Well, yes. I mean, as you saw from all of the areas or disciplines that we identified in the text area, in the text section, what could be quote-unquote asset, but could be essential. It's every single discipline in HR. So it's not just classification and staffing. We want to get every single person who has experience in every single HR domain or HR-related domain to apply to this process. We're interested in finding and having all types of people. No matter what the situation, we don't know what the future will hold with regards to the government, and we're experiencing growth right now, which is great, which means that we have more opportunities. So this is the reason why we want to hire more people. Okay, so it is now 3:30. We're a little bit actually over time, I think, from our, or no, maybe we have a.
J'avais une question, je l'ai envoyée en ligne, mais vous ne l'avez pas répondu. Je veux savoir si vous avez besoin de références à ce moment-ci.
No, not at this point. No references. If you have attestations from previous individuals with regards to the experience, welcome those. But we'll be identifying references and reference checks towards the end of the process.
Alors, pas nécessaire de soumettre les références pour l'instant. Si vous avez des attestations de vos employeurs ou de vos superviseurs gestionnaires, vous pouvez les soumettre avec votre candidature. Mais sinon, les références, on va vous les demander plus tard au cours du processus d'évaluation. Merci.
I have another question. So is it fair to assume that the employees who are the candidates who provide more supporting documentation, so you'll complete the questions online, but you do have the opportunity to provide supporting documentation. So the ones who submit more will have a better advantage because they've provided more opportunities to show how they meet?
I would say no. It all depends on what is submitted. If you submit a whole bunch of information that is not relevant to the experience or the criteria in question, then that is not going to help you. But if you're very clear and precise with regards to any information that you submit, each candidate will be assessed according to whatever they submit. And the management the board will determine, based on whatever is submitted, whether or not they deem that candidate, if it's sufficient enough to deem that candidate as meeting or not. What I would say is, if you do have information over and above the general stuff, I would say submit it. I would encourage people to submit it, because the more information, the idea of this project is to get a really strong foundation, a strong certainty within from the board that people actually have that. So there's various different ways in which you can demonstrate that. I would say that helps to prove for your case that you have that criteria. The other piece of this is important because this is an ongoing tool that will be, we're refreshed. You might become fully qualified in the first round, but we might not have as many, or might not be able to fill all of those spaces. As we continue on in this process, in the pools, this is a continuously replenished pool. There might be a new manager that comes on board that says, okay, I want to pull from the pool. What is the information he or she will be utilizing to have a better understanding of the candidates that are in the pool? Is from the submissions that were submitted. So, he's going to call and say, okay, I need someone in classification. Send me all the people that identify classification experience, and they'll get all the portfolios that were submitted. So of course that manager is going to have more to more to judge and more to have an understanding of the candidate that might have a little bit more information. So, but it's really up to this is sending a whole bunch of information that is not related. Is that demonstrating your competencies? Is that demonstrating your experience? I would say no. It could actually be counter to your candidature. So it's about we don't want a whole bunch of non-useful information. We want the stuff that is really pertinent to the competencies that we are assessing.
So what's
you also
Sorry.
talked about a template that would be sent to candidates. So would that still be done? Did I misunderstand? Or do you just submit everything, like all of your supporting documentation initially, or only when asked through the template?
So right now, you only need to submit documentation to show how you meet the essential experience and education criteria. So the competencies will be assessed after we've done the screening. And the competencies, at that point, we're going to be sending employees a template for them, which outlines the competencies that are on the posters with the associated expected behaviors, and they will be able to use that to show how they feel they meet the competencies. Candidates show how they meet the competencies, and or submit documentation, supporting documentation to show how they meet the competencies. So you don't have to submit everything at this point for the entire process. Or at this point, you only need to submit those things that will show how you meet the experience and education pieces. Does that help clarify?
Yes, thank you.
There's an additional question on the board.
Yes. Will other organizations be able to appoint from the pools, or will it be...
Excuse me, David?
Yes.
I would really like to translate some more before you go to the next question.
For sure. Go ahead.
OK. Donc, la question était, est-ce que les candidats qui vont soumettre de la documentation pour supporter leur candidature seront avantagés par rapport à ceux qui vont simplement décrire comment ils rencontrent les critères par écrit, par eux-mêmes. Donc, non, il n'y aura pas, OK, les gens, la forme de comment vous allez soumettre votre information n'est pas importante. Donc, que ce soit de la documentation pour supporter, que ce soit des exemples, des attestations, ou que ce soit vous dans une description détaillée, ça n'a pas de différence. Ce qui est très, très important, c'est que les membres du jury de sélection ou d'évaluation ont toute l'information qui est pertinente et importante reliée à, là, on parle de présélection, donc aux critères d'expérience. Et plus tard, il y aura, pour les gens qui auront été retenus à la présélection, il y aura un formulaire concernant l'évaluation, un gabarit concernant l'évaluation des compétences pour un peu structurer comment le candidat va démontrer comment est-ce qu'ils rencontrent chaque compétence. Donc, je veux juste que ce soit clair que la forme n'a pas d'importance. On encourage beaucoup les gens à soumettre de la documentation parce que souvent, c'est des exemples concrets de comment on a réussi un projet, une tâche ou comment on a acquis une expérience. Mais c'est important que vous sachiez que s'il y a un gestionnaire qui est intéressé à considérer les candidats, par exemple, qui ont une expérience dans une certaine discipline, ce gestionnaire-là va obtenir toute l'information qui a été soumise par les candidats. Donc, que ce soit la documentation additionnelle ou que ce soit de la description narrative, ça n'a pas d'importance, mais toute cette information-là va être transmise aux candidats. Je pense que ça résume bien ce qui vient d'être discuté. Merci.
Yes, so there was another question. Oh, we had one here. Will other organizations be able to appoint from the pools, or will it be limited to Health Canada? So this is another thing that we discussed as well. Definitely at this point, we are limiting it to Health Canada. What is interesting about as we all know, in human resources, right now we have the new direction in staffing, and one of those flexibilities that we have in the new direction in staffing is non-advertised appointments. So often what has happened, what we have used here in Health Canada in the past, is if a person gets qualified in a pool elsewhere, then they can get appointed non-advertised here. So doesn't stop. We will keep it limited for the time being to Health Canada, but it's something this is part of the pilot. If we think on the refresh that we think, we should open it up, then we'll do that. The issue is that we're doing all the legwork, all the effort to put this in place, so that's the reason why we're keeping it closed at this point. But we'll see in the future for future refreshes. What I will say is, in my own, I feel this is a great opportunity for employees. No matter what organization you are from, if we do end up expanding our area of selection to assess individuals in the broader area of selection, it's a great opportunity to show a different way of being qualified for at a certain group and level, and rather than just having au hasard doing your application or your interview. So, anyways, I think because it can be leveraged in that way. So it's it's about if we are able to help other employees elsewhere in the government obtain positions at a higher level because they've been really well assessed here, then I feel that's a great opportunity for us in Health Canada to help with the broader development of our community. I think we're pretty over time.
I have a brief question, David.
Sure.
Will you be sending an acknowledgement to candidates that submit documentation by email, confirming that it's been received? I have occasionally experienced reliability of our email system with large attachments that is on par with our pay system. So I would like to, is it possible to confirm that when documents are submitted that there's a reply sent back saying, yes, we've got it?
Aha. So we haven't crossed that bridge yet, but I will talk to my team and see if this is something we can do. It's, you can imagine how much documentation we're going to be receiving. So it might be like an automatic notification saying that we received your email, but we'll explore this further. It's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Okay. So, of course, this is the end of the information session, but if you have any other questions or anything you'd like to ask, please send it to the Growth Approach email. It's on the poster and also on the GC Connect site. Thank you very much for your participation today. and have a wonderful day. And looking forward to seeing all of your applications. Bye-bye.